Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Your Next Business Bestie. My name is Jen Borhart and I'm your host. And if you've been listening to this podcast for any length of time, you have heard this week's guest's name come up many, many times. I was just joking about it that I don't think I go through an episode without saying her name. So I am super excited to welcome Diana Davis to the show. Hi, Diana.
Hi, I'm so flattered. What an intro.
Well, I mean, between recess and coaching we've done, and I mean, you have been absolutely instrumental in the changes in my business in the last
Mm,
3 years. So,
so honored.
started just thank you.
Yeah.
But before I go too off track, which I love to do, tell everybody what it is that you do.
Okay, so I am technically a business coach for creative entrepreneurs. I used to be a photographer and graphic designer, so that's kind of where that passion came from of helping other creatives. And that doesn't have to mean like an artist literally. I do have a lot of artists, but it can also just mean someone who has a heart-centered gift who wants to make money doing that. But I help creative entrepreneurs just really embrace their essence and build a business that supports their life instead of this grind. As well as, just I'm really passionate about right this second in this season, just helping people be a more human brand instead of worrying about the algorithm and all these viral trends and basically turning into a robot. Like as creatives, we get to be creative about our business. And if we're not creative about our business, it's going to be soul sucking. Eventually, it's just not going to work for us. So, to be sustainable, to be successful, to make money, to build a loyal community that's always ready to buy from you, we have to be humans first. So that's what I'm really passionate about. I'm also a community creator kind of by accident. I just have kind of that gift. And I had so many people coming to me being like, have you thought about making an actual community with like walls around it? And so I have Recess, which is my community, and that's kind of my baby right now.
I love it. So, let's go back in time
Yeah.
to your photography business.
Mm.
So we both happen to be in Colorado right now, which there's only been a few times that we've known each other that you've been here and I've been here. So that's really cool. You're also in this new chapter, which we will get to. But let's start with the photography chapter. What were you doing? Who were you doing it for? And how
Yeah.
did it start?
Funny enough, as I'll hint towards ending this nomadic chapter, I literally got my camera out of my storage unit for the first time in 4 years, like 2 days ago, which it's just sitting over here. And people are like, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I haven't even turned it on. Like, I'm so scared. I don't know. I really burnt out on it, but it's exciting and a big part of me. So I was always photographing since I was 16, literally professionally since I was 16. I was second shooting weddings on film, like way back in the day. Um, and but what I consider like my full photography career was um after I got laid off from magazines in New York City, which was another big leap. I moved to New York City without a job and a plan, got into magazines, was a graphic designer there, and then got laid off and started my photography business full time. And that was when I was photographing women, mostly in wellness, but all women entrepreneurs, and doing their Instagram marketing, their website shots, all of their branding shots, as well as a lot of product photography for wellness companies like Native Deodorant and New Chapter Vitamins, those type of things, as well as a lot of food photography, which was super, super fun.
Okay. And how did this photography business, how did you end up coaching? What did that transition look like in your life?
Yeah, I think this was really important to highlight because so many people just see, of course, it's hard not to see just like where you are now, right
Yeah.
here, this second. She's a successful business coach, whatever that means. Um, and people don't see that the minute got laid off and decided, like, let's go for this photography thing full time, which was a risk because
Yeah.
I was doing like $180 photo shoots when I first started, like living in New York City, like, okay, let's try it. Like I just put a fire under my ass.
Mhm.
And um I started to care about Instagram that day. I was like, okay, get your shit together. I hope I can cuss on here.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. Get your shit together. You need to be on Instagram. You need to be seen. And I will say that didn't mean my face for like 2 years. Like I was not about showing my face. Now I'm like huge into that, as you know,
Oh,
but it was more just like the work and doing collaborations and being seen for what I do. Um, so that was like the first seeds of coaching planted, like without even knowing it. And so I think what a lot of people see is just like the apple tree bearing the apples. And really, we planted these seeds like way back. Um, from there on Instagram, especially when stories started to come out, I really was sharing about the entrepreneurial piece of things. I really wanted to be not just known for that, I just wanted to help with that. I didn't care about showing people what lens I was using. I didn't care, but I was like, listen, I figured out that you should be an LLC and this is what an S corp means and this is how to price your stuff and branding and websites and like just like what I was figuring out that no one was helping me with that I couldn't find the answers for. So that was also planting seeds. I was never planning to be a business coach. When I was photographing, I started doing a few like little mentorship sessions, especially for food bloggers to help them learn to shoot their own food. Cause it's kind of ridiculous to hire a photographer for like all your food photos, you know?
yeah.
So I started that, and that was like the first mentorship sessions I was doing. Then, out of desperation, 3 years into my photography career, I hired my first coach, Emily Merrill, who I'm actually staying in her house right now in
Oh,
Denver.
that's so funny.
And yeah, I was just like my lowest low mentally, even though I was crushing it. I had a six-figure photography business. I was busy. I was burning out and I had like 11 shoots a week. I was editing photos when I'd go see family. Like it just was insane and not sustainable. And it was so fixable via pricing, via boundaries, via all of it. But I was at a really big mental low, especially because I just never knew when the next thing was coming in. And so I hired a business coach out of desperation. That was February 2020. And we didn't know the pandemic was like really happening yet. And she was like, what are other revenue streams that we could bring in? And I said, well, I do these mentorship sessions. I could like, people ask me sometimes to audit their business systems, to, help them with Instagram, all of the above, but I don't have time. I'm going from Central Park at 7 a.m. to the Brooklyn Bridge at 7 p.m. for shoots with a 30-pound backpack, walking 13 miles a day. Like, I don't have time. And then the pandemic hit and I had a lot of time. And so I launched these strategy sessions, these free 20-minute strategy sessions just to see, and got my first 5 one-on-one clients. And then one of my other mentors was like, you should launch a group program. So I joined her program to launch Camp Clarity. Now we have ran 11 rounds of Camp Clarity live, and now it is evergreen for people to tap into anytime they want. And it's basically like a business school for creatives, A to Z. You've taken it, so you kind of
Uh-huh.
know. Yeah, and then it just went from there. I will say I was a coach, a photographer, and a graphic designer all at the same time. And that is so possible. And I also like had a mental breakdown on a group call of 50 people. And I was just like, I can't do this. And so my coach was like, you have to drop the ball. Like you can't monetize the ball. You can't hand the ball off to someone else. You just got to drop some balls. And so I dropped the ball of graphic design first. And then I dropped the ball of photography. And it wasn't really purposeful. I just stopped taking shoots and then I just never scheduled them again. And here we are 4 years later, and I've still been a full-time coach. Um, and now I'm just being really called same type of thing where that stuff, like the photography, composted itself to let me be a coach. I wouldn't be a coach if I wouldn't have gone through that. And the same thing is happening kind of right now with the business coaching created Recess, the community. Without it, it wouldn't have happened. And I feel like Recess is actually like where it's at. That's actually what I'm really meant to be doing. So
So much to touch on here. First, the $180 photo shoot, I just had to laugh because I've mentioned recently my first social media clients when I launched my business, I was charging $180
that's
for 20
funny.
posts a month, like literally fully curated. 20 posts a month for $180. And it's bittersweet to think about. But again, it created that busyness, that like overwhelm of just, but I'm
Yeah.
really busy. I'm making good money. And we can go into all of that. But something I didn't touch on is actually how we met, I realized
Mm.
as you were talking, which we actually met in person, which is shocking because you've
Rare.
been a nomad for the entire time I've known you.
Mhm.
But it's one of the coolest stories because I studied abroad in Paris. So our roots, our seeds actually go back to a nomad-ish life. I was studying abroad in Paris, and our mutual friend Tori was part of my study abroad program. And she and I, we knew of each other. We weren't super close when we were in Paris, but when I relocated to Colorado Springs, Peyton, in 2018, she had also relocated to Denver. And she and I reconnected originally because she taught a yoga class at a whiskey distillery that I attended. And that's how
Wow.
we got back into each other's orbit. But that was 20 early 2019. And then I want to say it was like when she did the Well Women Summit, I want to say it was like
Mhm.
2021. It was
2022, because I was actually
ooh,
nomadic. I had to come
okay.
back from Italy
That's
to
so funny.
go to the summit and host my first retreat. I thought I was going to be like, oh yeah, I live in Colorado. This will be easy, but no idea I was going to be nomadic.
That's so funny. So 2022, she did put on a one-day Well Women Summit, and Diana was a speaker. I attended with a couple of friends of mine. And I remember at that point seeing that you were a creative entrepreneur coach. And I was like, well, I don't know if I'm creative.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a while, I mean, it was probably 6 months before I took the leap and signed up for Camp Clarity. I think I was in round like 8, maybe
Mm-hmm.
something like that. And then took Ascend, and now I'm in recess and all of the things. Um, but it's burnout is something that keeps coming to mind. And last week's episode, my friend Christina, she was a graphic designer after being laid off, and she talked about burnout and how she loved her business to the point of it suffocating her.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like similar feelings when it comes to photography. For me, that's where I had gotten earlier this year. We were talking offline how I have just been quitting everything, and how my husband keeps asking if I'm just going to quit everything this year because I quit my full-time job. And you were instrumental in that
Mm-hmm.
happening. Literally when I gave my notice, I was like, okay, I have to tell Diana. Um, but it's scary to drop those balls. So what was that feeling like when especially graphic design first, when you let
Yeah.
go of that? What did that feel like?
I mean, huge relief. I never
Yeah.
liked graphic design, honestly. I just went to school for it and I was like, well, I'm an artist person, so this is the most money I can make. It's
Ah,
fine. I did it and it doesn't come easy to me. I was better at photography. Relief for sure, but also it was a little, that's a little bit of a cheating example because I had coaching. Like
right.
I had that to land on. And there's been so many times where even like right now, like I'll be really honest and you're hearing this first, like I don't know if we're launching Camp Clarity again. I don't know if we're launching Ascend again. And I think that's really important to speak out loud and let people know like it's okay if you're like, fuck, I kind of want to quit my job and my job is my business. And
Yeah.
luckily, recess is there and that feels really good. So we start to be in this place of what do we need to burn and what do we need to keep and like almost put more gas on the fire. Um, but in that time, it was just like, it wasn't a choice.
Mm. Yeah. I love that. I was just having a strategy session, and I launched my strategy sessions last year, which I love that there's that similar in our journeys too. And because you were the one who told me, you're like, you're Jen, you're doing strategy, but you're not charging for it. And
Right.
finally I was like, okay, I need to fucking start charging for it. So I was doing a strategy call this morning,
Hmm.
and with a woman who has been a civil engineer, and she has a master's degree in meteorology, and she quit her job, and now she wants to be a shadow work coach. And she was like, but people don't understand what I'm doing. And we had this whole conversation, and she's like, and I don't know what I'm doing. I was like, yeah, that's how a lot of us feel when we're launching these businesses. And I was like, and here's the secret. You're going to figure out what you want to do. You're going to get super passionate about it. And then you're going to pivot because as creative people, you're going to decide that you want change and that's okay. And your community is going to pivot with you. I mean,
Yeah.
I went from versant taking any task that anybody would throw my way to really doing social media management. And actually, this call this morning, I was introduced as a social media manager, which referrals are everything, and I loved it. And I was like, but that's not what I'm doing anymore. Like, I want to be in the
Yeah.
strategy space. I want to be high level. And it's interesting how we pivot as entrepreneurs, and
Mm.
how we have all these interests. And yeah, we can't do all of the things, but we can do some of the things. And you really
Yeah.
helped me realize that.
Mm.
So, where did the coaching clients come from in the very beginning of your business?
Mm. Yeah, the community that I built. Um, yeah, I want to touch on really quick before we move on to that
Yeah.
is the burnout is inevitable.
Mhm.
Like, I am really passionate about helping my people not burn out just from stupid things like not charging enough and bad boundaries. But like my burnout right now, I'm the most burnt out that I've ever been in my life, literally. And it's partially because I'm ending a nomadic 2-year stint. I'm pivoting, I don't know where I'm pivoting, but I'm needing to pivot or evolve. I'm like in the caterpillar soup era, and that part is inevitable. And I keep telling people I'm not burnt out because I'm working too much because I got that on lock. But
Yeah.
when it's not aligned for you anymore as a creative, like you said, it's just not going to be, you can't make yourself. It's just
No.
like as creatives, we can't make ourselves work for people. And
Yeah.
I think people try to avoid the burnout, but it's kind of inevitable. But it's like how we handle the burnout and that kind of thing. But yeah. Um the clients, the coaching clients, I mean so many of them are photography clients. Like so many. And so all of that I built up, that's the human brand. And that's what I'm so freaking passionate about right now. And why I launched this human program, it's just called Human this year, is because we're seeing so much robotic selling, the robotic Instagram vibe. And it's like that might resonate for someone right away, but you're never going to remember their name. You get on their email list, and I've done this so many times. I get like a freebie from someone who does a viral reel, and then you get on their email list and you don't even know their name. And you get the emails and you're like, who is this? So we didn't build a relationship with them. And then I'm unsubscribing. It was short lived. It's like a one night stand versus these people who you've really invested in, even just having conversations and even just allowing yourself to be vulnerable online so they can connect with you, whether it's literally about your freaking nail color, or that I drink matcha instead of coffee, or that I travel the world, or that I'm like a recovering Christian, or that whatever, rancher's daughter, any of those things people can actually relate to as a human, and then they buy our stuff. So all of my clients have come from cultivating community in some way, shape, or form.
It's really funny because as a social media person, I always get asked, "Well, what's the ROI on on social media posting?" And I have learned that the right clients for me are the people that will never ask that because they
Mhm.
understand that yes, I will come up with a social media plan for you that basically is an online resume for your business. But if you're not there being a real human and talking to people, it doesn't matter how many times we post on social. It doesn't matter how beautiful the content is. It isn't going to do shit for you if you're not there. I
Yep.
mean, you have to be actively forming relationships. And I mean, for me, it's foxes. Anytime someone sees a fox, they send it to me. And I even
Yeah.
had somebody I've never met in person mailed me a stuffed fox that she found somewhere. Or there's one somebody found that looks like my logo, so she mailed it to
Mhm.
me. Um, and I've never done business with either one of them, but like they're
Yeah.
gonna think of me when they think of
Yep.
someone who does need someone to do strategy or social or websites or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I do want to talk about what social media looks like this year, what
Mm.
social media has looked like lately with how heavy the world has felt. And you've done
Mhm.
some stories on this, and I think you put it so eloquently because we are in an election year.
Yeah.
The closer we get to November, the nastier shit is getting on Facebook and Instagram, especially. And sometimes, especially as being emotional entrepreneurs, creative entrepreneurs, that shit just gets really heavy. And
Mhm.
what advice do you give to people when it's harder to show up because of the weight of the world around us?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of different versions of that. It's like, is it hard to show up because you're afraid of being called out for not saying anything or saying something? Is you're scared to show up for your business, or is it, the other version of that would be that it's just like you can't even open the app because it's just driving you crazy. If that's the case, then it's like we need to unfollow some things. We need to have big boundaries. I just downloaded this app called Opal that's free. If you have to like X out of the screen that tries to get you to pay. It seems like it's not free, but it is. Um, that I established a boundary of um no, I block all my Instagram, Telegram, messages, WhatsApp, everything from 10 p.m. to 9 a.m. And it is wild how many times I try to go check it before 9 a.m. and it's just like it's not available. And it's been so good for my mental health because the minute you look at news, it takes like what? It takes like I think they said Mel Robbins had a stat of like 7 hours or something to fully actually recover, from something traumatic like that you're seeing. And it's not that we should put our heads in the sand, but it's not sustainable to have our heads in the fire all the time. And so, really blocking those things out. And then, as far as like being scared to show up, I would say, like, what does your audience need? For example, one of my clients is an art therapist and she can't take sides. Like, she cannot post that kind of stuff as a therapist. And I said, why don't you give tools for your
Mm.
clients as they are going through this? It's not about always like taking a stance just because you have a platform, because then that just can muddy everything. It's like not actually helpful. It can be, but it's not always helpful. And we shouldn't do it just because we feel like we have to. But if you can help your clients move through the muddy, on fire world, that's where it's at. So, like you being a social media manager, helping your clients navigate, how do I post during this time? Like, what does that look like for me? For me, with my coaching clients, it's like show up as you, as a human. Don't do it because you're feeling bullied or pressured to do it. Like, only show up if it feels really aligned. Don't just like post the black square just because everyone else is posting the black square kind of vibe.
Yeah, I mean, something that I talk about with my clients is a little more masculine energy, black and white, of like what's so important to your core values that you're okay with losing business over it.
Mm,
And every once in a while, I'll get a client that says, well, nothing's worth losing business. And I push them because
hmm
we're humans. There are things that are important enough to you. I mean, for me, it's LGBT rights. And recently, there's a Facebook group here in town that's parents of D38 students, and the guy that runs it does not even live here. And he is very, very anti LGBT. And the group is public, and he posted some horrible things a couple weeks ago. And I responded. And for a split second, I was like, man, this group is public. I live in a pretty conservative area. And I had this moment, I was like, this could lose me business. And then I was like, you know what? This could lose me business, and that's fine. That's totally fine. And I
hmm
think it's important for us to decide what is so important to our core, to our values, to us as human beings, because there's so much gray area online too, because people are scared. And if you don't have an opinion, like you said, that's totally fine. But it's also okay to show up for those things that are your heart centered values, especially
Yeah.
when you have a heart led business too.
Yeah.
Christy
Agreed.
Black was on the podcast and talked about heart led businesses, which I thought was great. All right,
hmm
so we'll shake off the negative social media vibes. Um, yeah, let's talk about Recess because I've had a
Yes.
few members of Recess on the podcast so
Mm.
far, and I will say I was a huge skeptic when you said you were launching an online community. I'm
Oh
like,
my God,
okay,
tell me more.
well, I was like, I'm gonna join because it's Diana, and your community is stellar. There's so many people that I talk to regularly that I've met because of you. But I was like, man, another platform to check, like
Mm,
something else to plug into. I was like, there's no way. I was like, I'm gonna sign up, we'll see what happens. And I could be more active for sure. But I will say, especially when this time when social media can be heavy, Recess is literally a playground to go hang out with amazing people. So talk about the inspiration behind Recess and all of the different parts of
Oh my God, I love hearing the other side so much.
it.
If I could just like get in people's brains and be like, what did you actually think and what do you think now?
Yeah.
Yeah, uh this is a saga. I'll try to keep it short, but I was told to do Recess, and Recess didn't have a name for a really long time. Just my online community, I was told to do it in so many ways that I should do it from coaches. I was in masterminds, I was hot seat coached, I remember being in Sedona at an in-person mastermind and pitching this, and people were just like, had their opinions about it. Communities have to be this way. You have to have, what's the transformation? Oh my God. Just like, stop. I don't have to have a transformation. Like art doesn't have a transformation. It's
Yep.
just moves you. That's the transformation. And so, yeah, there is a transformation in Recess. Of course, I've had people literally make like 10K off of Recess just from meeting new people and them signing up for their stuff or whatever, but that's not the point. And so the point is to have a space where we're not always in the freaking classroom all the time. And the classroom is important. It's really important. But think about school. We have to have integration time. We have to go play kickball. We have to go move that energy around. And for those listening and hearing this the first time, it's not like we're doing somatic workouts in Recess or anything. The vibe is just the analogy of Recess, of a community where you can just be with like-minded people and breathe instead of feeling like, oh my God, I've got to sell while I'm in here. I'm attending this event so I get new clients and get new contacts. It's just like, no, like we always say, and I will say it again, and it'll probably be our little tagline forever is like, this is where you can wear your retainer and like have a little slumber party with us, be on your couch and chill. You don't have to be anybody that you're not. And being in a room with creative entrepreneurs who get it and not just get the business stuff, but get how hard it is to explain it to your partner who's in corporate, or how hard it is to, we have a lot of spiritual people in there, traveling, nomadic people who just have, of course, the normies in our lives that just don't understand. And so, or the business debt or whatever, we talk about everything from like teeth whitening to our latest like podcast fave true crime, thing to like, I had to break up with my fiance and my business is like holding on by a thread while I'm doing all of that. It's very real and very vulnerable. Um, and it came to be really because, yeah, because the universe was like, Diana, this is what you're creating now. And
Yeah.
people just kept asking. So I created it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you've always had such a community, and I think like my round of Camp Clarity, we had a group message on Instagram. Everybody kind of hates group messages, right? Like we all like it's overwhelming, too many responses, and you end up never going to it. But Recess has become the group chat for everybody
Mhm.
in your
Yeah.
community. And I mean, there's even where like travel recommendations. And I
Hmm.
love to go into that one and just see where people are going. Like it's almost
Hmm.
like you can take a trip from your computer just to see where other people are traveling to. Talk about the Recess events that are part of
Yeah.
being a member of Recess.
Yeah, of course. I'm going to take a sip of water really quick. So the Recess events probably will always evolve. And that's why I love being the facilitator of Recess, because we I get to play just as much as anyone else. All I promise in Recess is a platform for you to converse on and 2 events per month. That's all I promise. But we get to do whatever the frick we want, which is super exciting. So right now, our events are the Sandbox, Playground Talks, Study Hall, and the Mixer. So the Mixer is kind of where Recess was really born, is when I would host my master classes, which are just free educational, workshops. I would let people drop their Instagrams in the chat at the end, because I want people, like, my core value is community and collaboration. And such cool things were happening just from people connecting there. Like, we've had businesses actually built just from those connections. Best friends made, just cool things like I'm an underwater photographer and I met a breathwork coach and we're going to do a gallery showing together, like crazy stuff. And so that's when people were like, Diana, I have 200 mutual connections with you. Could you like put a box around this community? But then we started doing mixers, which were just like a free place to come and introduce yourself. And when I was doing these mixers, we would have 2 hours, which we still do, 2 hours of people introducing themselves. And I've asked, like, "Do you guys wanna break this up? Do you wanna do breakout rooms?" And they're like, "Nope, we wanna hear from everyone. We wanna listen to everyone. We know everyone's authentic and genuine in here, and it's worth it to just sit here for 2 hours." And it doesn't even feel like 2 hours in my opinion at all. So that's where the mixer was born. That was kind of the first recess thing, and we brought that into recess. It's quite literally just a mixer. And I have people, Matt Allen is a friend of mine who's in recess and from Colorado, or maybe not from Colorado, but lived in Colorado. Um, and he'll message me afterwards and he's like, Diana, no one else can host a 2-hour Zoom call where people are literally introducing themselves and everyone stays on that fucking call. I don't know
Yep.
what you're doing and what magic you're, and I'm like, I don't know. This is just my community. They're amazing. So the mixer. Then we have the sandbox, which is my favorite. It's like a think tank kind of vibe where you can bring your idea. So say you have a retreat idea and then like you have your, can I say? Do
Yes.
they
Yep.
know? Okay. So like your reading retreat idea, you can bring that to the sandbox and then everyone gets to play off of it.
Mm.
And we get to go, what if you did this? What if you did this? What if you did this? And it expands your idea like just into the ethers, which is super fun. And then hearing everyone else's ideas is great and expansive as well. The playground talks are more like a podcast, a live podcast. It's not a presentation. This is not the classroom. So I don't want you to come present on social media like you would in Camp Clarity. I just want to talk like this on the couch. And then the study halls are the only time we do live business coaching. And that's once a quarter. It's like, all right, we all do own businesses. I am a coach. So come on with your questions and I'll answer them. And there will be more, I'm sure.
I'm excited to see what
Yeah.
comes next from recess. Where the question I've been asking lately is where does your fire for all of this come from? And how do you keep that ignited? Right now, I mean, right now is a great time. Like you just said, you're more burned out than you've ever been.
Yeah.
And I think we all know the answer already, but like where's the fire come from? What keeps it going when shit gets hard?
Yeah. I love this question because I always say, and it literally brings up, I can feel like the emotion, which is what it should do, right? And I ask people like, what sets you on fire? But like, not just like, oh my God, this like lights me up. Like, I mean, like makes you mad.
Yeah.
Where's that fire, you know? And what makes me really just, ugh, like mad, like fiery is when people have such a potential and
Mhm.
they are just like, and but they want the thing and they have the potential to get the thing and they just can't see a path forward or they're blocked somehow. Like one of my most ideal clients who I'm actually seeing right after this is a photographer. She's one of my favorite people ever, Kate Milford. And when I met her, I was like, you are the most talented freaking photographer I have ever met, and you won't get online. And she's just like, but I just hate it. I don't want to show my face. Da, da, da. She had all these confidence things. And I was like, "Yeah, like your stuff needs to be out in the world, and I can help you with that." And so, yes, it's about strategy and it's about systems and all these things, but at the end of the day, it's fucking mindset. It's like
Yeah.
where I don't get lit up is teaching someone how to do an Instagram story. I'm like, yeah, like I'll show you, but it's
Mhm.
more about like, where are we going? Like, where can we unblock so that you can freaking have the career of your dreams instead of being the starving artist or starving healer or feeling like you have to go get another corporate job, so that's the fire that keeps me going. And I see that, I mean, recess is the coolest because it's like this quantum thing where I just planted something and I don't even know what's happening behind the scenes. It's
Um,
just happening. Like people are coming to me all the time. I probably don't hear 90% of the connections and things that are happening. I just got to like kind of drop the bomb and leave. And people are like, woo, so it's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I took my first trip to Bozeman in May for Hannah's retreat. Hannah and I worked together for about 6 months on her business. I worked with Sarah Lehman from your circle. Kelsey and I talk quite frequently. I just met Krishna. She and I just did an episode of the podcast.
Amazing.
And I mean, when I moved to Colorado, I was just talking about this recently. Oh, I did a call with Claire, who I also met through you.
Mm,
And she was like, Jen, you know so many people. And a lot of that stemmed from becoming part of your community and like
mm,
reigniting in me how important that community is, like whatever your community is. And
yeah.
for yours, like it is the people that you can lean on when shit gets hard and entrepreneurship sucks. I mean, there's so much talk of like you have so much freedom and blah blah blah, and like yes, all of that is true. Like I just told you, my Mondays and my Fridays are blocked off on my calendar now and I get to choose what I do with them, and that's really cool. Or like the fact that I stopped working at 7:30 last night and had no idea what the hell to do with myself. But like also shit gets hard,
Yeah.
and you touched
Really
on
hard.
this just briefly, but like you make people feel seen too. Like you talked
Mm,
about financial part of all of this and like debt. I have a huge
yeah.
amount of financial trauma, and like just knowing you're not alone in this
Hmm.
shit
Yep.
is worth everything.
So
Absolutely
true. So,
worth
so
everything.
true. Hmm.
So what's next for Diana? Do we know
God,
what's next?
I wish you could tell me. Oh, I mean, yeah. So there's a lot of big leaps that I've taken moving to New York without a job and a plan. I'm divorced. I got divorced when I was 24. Like getting laid off and deciding to do the entrepreneurship thing. I got out of a 6-year relationship and went nomadic for 2 years. I'm good with the big leaps. But I also feel, I don't know if you feel this way, as you get older, it feels scarier. Cause it's not even like, do I have a lot more to lose? I don't know, but it feels
Yep.
irresponsible.
Right.
And so I'm in another really big leap because I'm closing out this chapter of nomad life and I'm really working on closing it, not just moving on. Like, what do I like? What did it teach me? How do I want to tell that story? Um, and so I'm in this big transition period of moving my life to LA, wrapping up a lot of things, and actually just like deciding, and today is Lionsgate 8/8, and deciding like what I want to pursue and what I want to purge. And I wish I knew what's next. And I know the freaking void is where really amazing things happen. And it's really scary. It's really
It's so
scary.
fucking cool at the same time. Like
Yeah.
I in the last year and a half, let's call it. So just shorter than the time I've known you. Let's see, I left a 4-year relationship. I reconnected with my now husband. I got married. I quit the networking group. I don't think I've even told you this. I quit the networking group that I helped start and started my own. I'm quitting one of the yoga studios I teach at. I quit my full-time job. And it's amazing to me the space that it allows for shit you don't even expect to come
Yeah.
in. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, one of my clients that I'm becoming dear friends with, it's a coffee shop across the street. Like I can literally, I don't walk there, but I could walk there. And I never even told them what I do. Like,
Mhm.
and then one day the owner came up to me and I wouldn't have had the capacity to take on everything they need if I hadn't created space for it. But I'm doing their website, we're doing their social, we've got event planning that we've talked about. But I had so much overwhelm from working full time, work like teaching 3 to 4 yoga classes a week, plus my business that I didn't have any space anymore for the things that maybe the universe was nudging me towards. I didn't have the
Yeah.
time to even pay attention to it.
Yep.
I'm really excited to see
Mm.
what comes from this because I have no doubt that it'll be amazing. And I mean, recess alone, like everybody, it's like if someone mentions you, it's Diana Davis and her community and her community and her,
Mm, yeah.
and it's gonna be incredible, whatever it
Thank you.
is.
Yeah,
What
it's one of those things where it takes a lot of pain for me to make a big shift, and I've noticed that it's like I won't just do it. It has to be like painful. And then I'm like, "Oh, like the layoff or the divorce was because of alcoholism. It couldn't have just been like mediocre relationship gets divorced. It had to be like extreme, and the universe knows this like threshold I have." And so right now it's like I'm burnt out. Like I lost my voice for 6 days. You think that's a coincidence? I don't think so. So it's this space of big void, and it really helps to have those people around you like you saying, "Oh girl, it's scary and I know you and you're gonna like it's gonna be good. So get
what's your
ready."
human design?
I'm a manifesting generator.
I thought so. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, you were in the room when I discovered the rarity of being a
Reflector.
reflector.
Yes.
I don't know that I've told that story on the podcast, but it was at Tori's event, and I didn't know anything about human design at this point. And do you remember the name of? You probably know her better than the speaker.
Yeah, her name's like Taylor Corey, Koury. Yes.
Yes, I'll find her on Instagram before this episode goes live. But I'll never forget we were sitting in that room and she had people raising their hands, like, who's a manifesting generator? Who's a projector? And I was sitting there and little introverted me, I was like, I think most people have raised their hands. And she was like, and I never have any of these, but just in case, do we have any reflectors? And I was the only fucking one that raised my
Yeah.
hand. But um, I all that to say, like, I think human design is fascinating, especially in
Mhm.
these times of uncertainty, too. I find human design to be really reflective. No irony on being a reflector there. But for
Yeah.
me, reflectors are really strongly associated with the moon. I have my moon child right over
Mm,
my shoulder right now. And I have found, like, yeah, I mean, it's might be a few cycles of the moon, but I have to be done with something. Like,
mm,
I mean, I started talking to you about quitting my job when we met. So we're talking
mm.
2022. I just finally got done the end of July, and it takes time. But it's one of those when I'm fucking like, for you, it takes a high pain threshold to let it go. For me, I have to get to the point that, like, I'm fucking done. Like there's no getting me, like, relationships, anything. Once I get pushed past that point, there's no turning back. And it's literally like a light switch. But sometimes it takes a few moon cycles to get me there.
Yeah.
So for anybody who doesn't know their human design, definitely check it out. It's like a nice combination of astrology and science and all the woo. And that's another thing that I love about your communities too, is like, yeah, we talk about, systems and calendar. My calendar is completely changed because of you. I'll never forget. You were like, put the shit on your calendar that you want to do first. And I was like, Diana, I
Yes.
cannot do that. I can't, no, like, I cannot do that. And sure enough, that is what my calendar, like, I actually have read for 30 minutes on my
Yep.
calendar. I have the yoga classes, I have whatever. Um, so that was the first big thing that was I was like, "Oh, shit, like I can actually take control of my calendar instead of my calendar taking control of me." But there is also the woo side of it too.
Mhm.
And like you provide such a beautiful space for those two things to come together and this balance of masculine and feminine. What offerings do you have right now for people like human recess? What do you have available that people could tune into right now?
Oh my God, get in recess. It's so fun. We always have, well, I shouldn't say always, it could change. A manifesting generator over here, things change. But we have a free trial for you if you want to just pop in and see if you like it, which can't imagine you won't. If you plug in and use it, it is magic. So recess is there for you. And I just want to like go back for 2 seconds when you said like,
Yeah.
can't believe she's launching a membership. Because I also was like, I can't believe I'm fucking launching a membership. Like, memberships go dead, groups go dead so fast. And it was such a thing of like, this could go dead. And it is the most undead community. I love it. So I'm just really grateful. But I had those reservations too. I just want you to know. Um, and then I have Camp Clarity, which we've ran 11 rounds of. It is just now evergreen, which just means like think of an evergreen tree. It's always available. It's always green. So you can plug into that at any time. And that is just, it's epic. And there's 12 weeks worth of modules in there, and it's a transformational experience. Um, then human and sweet. So Suite is my two-part workshop on creating a product suite that actually is fun and like you. And oh, it's just so good. And then Human is a four-part, technically six. There's two bonus calls in there that you can dig into at any time about really making this human brand for yourself and basically like algorithm proofing yourself, recession proofing yourself, where you don't have to worry about keeping up with the Joneses. You can just turn up the volume on you in a strategic way so that you're building this loyal audience and loyal community that's going to buy from you no matter where you pivot. And that's recess, right? It's like when I launched, just to be expansive here, I had 100 people sign up and I don't have a landing page. I don't have a website. So it's possible. And that's just from community going, hey, I'm interested in pretty much, like you said, whatever she puts out, even if I'm skeptical.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
really, like, that's so funny. So I have a friend of mine that comes to my new networking group. She was laid off. Was a UX designer, graphic design. And so everyone in my little Wednesday morning group, their businesses are much newer than mine, which is a weird place to be, I want to say.
Mhm.
Like, because I still am totally figuring this shit out, but I'm about to hit my 6 year anniversary of my business,
Wow.
which is pretty cool.
Yep.
I'm actually going to throw a little party to celebrate. I decided
That's
like it's
awesome.
worth fucking celebrating. But
Yes.
a couple of them have always been like, well, I got to do this in the right order. Like I need to launch the website and launch this and launch that. And I looked at them one day and I was like, I didn't have a website until 2022 and I started my business in 2018 on a Facebook business page. And there's no right way to do this.
Yeah.
There's
Yep.
literally and you're going to change it anyway. Like
Yeah.
really like my website does not reflect my business accurately at all right now. And
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? I'll get to it
Right.
because
I'm busy changing
it's gonna be there,
lives.
right?
Bye. Yeah, exactly. The only right way is make connections. Plant seeds and make connections. And then the rest, like it just is great. It's cherry on top, but you don't have to have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to share with the audience today?
Just come say hi on Instagram, Diana Davis Creative. I love just saying hi. I'm not gonna cold DM you bullshit. I'm not gonna try to sell you anything. I just
Yeah.
want to say hi and know that you listened. It's so cool because on podcasts you don't really get to know. And it's nice
Right.
to just like hear that you guys actually listened. So would love to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to say thank you. I've said it a million
Mm,
times, but thank you. You have
mm,
been instrumental in me building my business in the last, well, I guess we've only known each other 2 years, which is bizarre,
crazy.
but
Yeah.
but I can say my business has totally and completely changed. And you just empower people to believe that they can do the thing that they want to
Mm.
do.
See,
So I
that's
was,
that's the fire. It's like hearing stuff like that. You're like, oh yeah, I love what I do.
yeah,
The
like it's
modality
pretty
can
fucking cool.
change. Yeah, the modality can change, but I fucking love what I do. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you and thank you for trusting me.
Yeah. All right. So everybody listening, go follow Diana, go reach out to her. And if you want to get in touch with me, you can reach me at Life Jen's Way on Instagram or jen@jensway.com. Two N's on Jen always. I'd love to talk about whatever your story is, if you want to talk strategy, any of those things. But more than anything, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. This has been so much fun. It's really reignited some of my fire through this podcast. It was totally spur of the moment. I think it was a full moon night in June, actually, that I was like, I'm just going to launch this shit right now. So thank you to everyone who's been listening. And it truly means the world. And thank you, Diana, for taking the time. And I am very, very excited to see what's next for you.
Mm,
Yeah. So
thank
everybody
you.
else, I'll talk to you next time on Your Next Business Bestie. Have a great day.